Hello and namaste, I'm Devina Gupta and this is WorklifeIndia, the show that talks about everything to do with money, the work we do and the lives we lead. In this edition, we talk about data, which is often referred to as the new oil. There is enormous amounts of it on the social media. It's our data, but do we truly own it? And who is benefiting from it? Let us find out as we ask, whose data is it anyway? With affordable smartphones and cheap data, access to the digital world has never been easier. Globally, an estimated 3.8 billion people use social media. That's nearly half of the planet's population. But how private is your social media experience? To help us understand how the social media data ecosystem works, we have with us on the show Sudhir Naidu, who owns a messaging app, Troop Messenger. Also joining us is Karnika Seth, a cyber law expert, and Himanshu Arya, a digital marketer, who will be sharing the industry practice of tapping the consumer data. So hi everyone, and thank you for joining us. And let me start with you, Sudhir, because apart from the app that you own, which is your favorite social media app?
I think, most of the time, until about few years, I think I've been using WhatsApp a lot. So, that is the most used. And after that comes all the news apps that I constantly keep watching.
All right. So point to WhatsApp and the news app, as you've mentioned right now, Sudhir. What about you, Karnika? Which app do you use the most?
Well, I used to use WhatsApp a lot. There are other news, papers I read online at times. I enjoy my experience surfing through these apps and learning every day.
All right. Himanshu, please tell me you do use social media apps. Otherwise, I'm going to judge your age.
So from social media, I think Instagram and Facebook is something that I use the most. Then comes LinkedIn from a professional networking perspective. Then from productivity perspective, I think I use Gmail and Google Meet a lot given the pandemic now. And then from Connect, WhatsApp obviously is the app that all of us are using by default.
But let's start this conversation now, because the question we're asking is, whose data is it anyway when you actually are using these apps? Karnika, to you then. The data that you put on these apps, is it your own, or do social media companies have a right over it?
Well, essentially, whatever data you choose to put on your social media handles is your own choice. A number of times people don't realize, but they give away a lot of information, voluntarily. It's more of your own consent. But many times, the terms and conditions of these web service providers essentially take away a license, which is a worldwide royalty-free license to use the data, especially if it is on a public platform, not really on a personal basis.
So the moment you click those terms and conditions, which I confess I do not read because I'm in a hurry just downloading the app. But Sudhir, as an app developer, how easy is it for a social media company to access your data? And when you actually sign on or click on those terms and conditions, do you give away a lot of your rights as a consumer?
Yes, I think it is given that, we give up a good part of our privacy when we log into any of the social media platforms. For example, if they only after you sync your contacts, they will be able to say that, okay, one of your contact can be reached out, maybe you can send a friend's request to them. So it is kind of a given thing in today's world that, social media, you are giving up certain kinds of privacy out to an enterprise.
Is it a given thing right now, Himanshu? Because sitting there, right there in your office in Delhi, and I'm sitting at another location in Delhi, how much would you know about my lifestyle, my purchasing habits, my friends, just by sitting in your office in Delhi at a click of a button?
See, how online platforms work is basis what you do on the platform. So the more you shop, the more I know about you. We have cookies dropped for every activity that you do on the browser. Basis that I'm able to segment you with the interests that you like, the kind of clothes that you browse through, the kind of videos you like, the kind of recipe videos that you would have seen, gives me your taste preferences, gives me your reading preferences, gives me everything about you. So from that perspective, not that I'm marking you person to person, but from an overall perspective, what happens is that I've segmented you into a certain kind of a user. If you are an avid shopper and you shop to the tune of say 1 lakh every month on Amazon, that data is available to my use to target you maybe the next Mercedes car that you might be interested in buying, because I know that you have a certain purchasing power.
But that Mercedes car that you talked about, if I could afford it and you can catch me there, Karnika, here is the question.
Yes.
Why should I care? Why should consumers care if there is targeted advertising, which is helping you make choices from different brands that are available? After all, you're getting the convenience of sitting at your home, ordering for food or dresses or tickets or videos, whatever you want online, and the advertiser is just giving you more choice to spend that money.
My take on this is that it's not a worry if it is basically with consent, and also expressly the terms have been given. What kind of cookies are being put in this device if you're browsing a particular website or a service. But the problem arises only where you're expecting a private conversation to remain private, and that is commercialized or marketed, and that's something which is in direct invasion of people's privacy.
And that's what I said, there is a terms and conditions which is flagged up every time you access an app. But how much of the privacy are you giving away? Are you aware of it or not? Well, a recent report by App Annie, which is a mobile analytics firm, shows that Indians spent more than 650 million hours using mobile applications in 2020. And during that time, consumer spending through apps hit $500 million. Simply that people use these apps to order more. But do people trust these services to protect them as well? And were they aware of how much of their lives are they sharing by using these apps? Take a listen.
हाँ वो तो टेलीग्राम पे मतलब
I drive an auto rickshaw in Delhi and use WhatsApp regularly. But ever since I saw the news that WhatsApp will be able to access some of my data, I feel scared that someone might misuse it. I might switch to Telegram soon.
So in fact, I have even stopped notifications on my phone. I don't allow all the apps to notify me of whatever updates they're giving, whatever offer they're giving, where am I, what is nearest to me and stuff like that. I've stopped all the notification. It is too distracting. I don't know. It's like, somebody is on your top of your head all the time and checking on you. What are you doing? I don't like that.
For me, I don't really trust these Chinese apps like TikTok and etc. because privacy is an issue. That's why the government is taking action towards it. But for apps like WhatsApp, Instagram and Facebook, privacy may not be an issue. It should not be an issue because it has grown a lot of trust in people and it is going very smoothly.
Your mobile phone is tracking everything. Even if you switch off your mobile phone, you are being tracked. So there's no way. The only way is you can just go off your mobile phone and become mobile free. That's the only way you can save your privacy, because today everything is 99.99% things is happening on mobile.
As an individual, of course, I would love to know how I can keep my data safe. But as of now, I think I've made peace with the fact that security on the cloud is a myth.
So is social media privacy a myth? Let me take this question to you, Sudhir, because recently there was a debate that was sparked by WhatsApp, which decided to change its privacy policy for certain way in which they access chats. And that's what created a furor. They have delayed implementation of that policy now till May globally. So are we seeing that no matter what happens, these are companies that need to earn as well? You using their services for free and, well, deal with it.
Absolutely. I think, it all bottles down to economics. Why does Facebook want to do it right now? It is just that, it is a big asset that they have and they need to monetize it. How do they build a bigger chunk of income from WhatsApp? I think, that is, it was imminent and, it's been long due and finally it has come to it. Say, for example, you could say that, why don't they charge something and then, they could build the customers, but that is not valuable. What is valuable is what you're doing, where you are, what is the kind of an income group you are in. And I do know that the government has put in a request, but maybe they might be kind enough to push it for certain time. But someday this is going to happen.
Isn't that a breach of a trust of what a lot of consumers are feeling? Karnika, you have a point.
Yeah, I wanted to make a point because you see, when it comes to privacy in India and across many jurisdictions in the world, they respect privacy, and this is a fundamental right of every citizen of India. And having said that, even if you have to order a food delivery app, if you're trying to order, install on your phone, it will ask you whether you'd like the location details to be shared, whether you'd like their photographs and videos to be shared, and people gullibly just give away and say, okay, I agree. And that is also, I think, a fault of a citizen, because he needs to be aware. Ignorance of law ultimately is no excuse, while the commercial interest vendors or the commercial interest service providers are definitely pursuing their objectives and interests. Even citizens need to be, stand up for their rights.
So the power is in your hands.
That is
if you don't like the app, why don't you migrate? As it was reported that nearly 4 million downloads in India were reported of Signal and Telegram, and leading to 2.3 million new downloads between January 6th and January 10th, when WhatsApp announced this policy change first. And Himanshu, you want to come in, but before that, I also want to ask you that even if you migrate to another platform, you've had an experience where you say that apps have found innovative ways of targeting you as a consumer, or finding about your lifestyle, which a lot of people are not aware of, and you had that moment as well.
Sure. So, okay, so there is something very interesting, that there are, frequency waves that your apps can read, which can actually tell you that, okay, if you were in front of the TV watching a particular advertisement. So that has been my eureka moment, wherein I said, oh, wow, now the apps are also listening to what we are talking, or listening to what I'm watching, has been a kind of a eye-opener when it comes to the kind of world that we are living in, and the kind of tracking our mobile phone is making it possible.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. Karnika, you want to come in?
I wanted to share, there have been times in the times of IoT, since I am a cybercrime lawyer and I deal with these cases day in and day out. There have been, keyloggers put in people's devices through online links. Even sometimes those are marketing links, but then they would not land you up on a product, but actually it is a ploy to reach your system and know more about you, and that's a privacy invasion. And these IoT devices could even be being used for listening to music. I wouldn't name those specific companies, but then there are so many of them we are listening for music or watching movies with. And IoT devices could be even ACs or refrigerators and smart devices today, which are snooping into people's lives.
Well, IoT is again Internet of Things that you mentioned right now, Karnika. And that's the question, Sudhir, because all of us are seeing an increasing awareness about privacy issues, which wasn't there in India earlier. How have your interactions changed when you actually go to your clients and say, hey, there's a model that I have. I'm giving you privacy, but it comes at a price and you have to pay for the subscription. Do you see people accepting this service if they have to pay for it?
We are very clear that, we target and address the businesses. And so, privacy is paramount for them. Data protection and ownership is paramount. So, we give what they wanted and we charge for them.
But Sudhir, I remember you telling us earlier that even though your Messenger app is used for office communication, there is also an option that the companies could snoop on their employees if they want to read the messages and the communication that's happening internally.
Yes. So, that is a business need. So if the customers would want to have that, and if their local country, policies allow it, they are allowed to make an extra purchase of this particular module. And we take a very clear undertaking that this is purely for compliance reasons that they'll use it.
And
not for any other purposes.
How many clients have been tempted to sign that undertaking, and in which countries?
Okay, so the module is intentionally being made a little pricey because it is an add-on module. And mostly, I think, the lot of interest is coming from the Indian corporates and, some of the Gulf corporations.
Yes, Karnika, you want to come in, but
Yeah.
before that, Himanshu, do you see a practice in the industry where sometimes the ethical lines of what you can access and what you cannot access is blurred because somebody is paying big bucks for marketing strategy to target these consumers?
No, so it does not, the data is not available to you. You can actually target basis certain kind of signals that are available to you. None of the media companies are in the business of selling data that way. They are in the business of making the targeting more sharper and make it more appropriate for a marketer to have a better ROI on the money that they invest on the platform. So the platform is tempted to give you more and more signals in terms of telling you that this user is more and more appropriate for you to target. And that's where, all the marketers are trying to channelize on that data, create more and more metadata, and make the audience targeting more and more relevant.
Okay,
on the
metadata,
platform.
ROI again is return on investment. Metadata is information about you, which you share on online platform. In a nutshell, it's called metadata. What right now Himanshu has said, Karnika, is that it's the platform that is giving away all the information. Why shouldn't, as a marketer, I make use of it if I can generate more revenue for my client and more options? But Karnika, are the ethical lines blurred then? Where do we need to bridge the gap to ensure more consumer protection?
Yes, of course, I agree over there that you need to be mindful of what data you're taking from which agency or which company. Also, I'd like to explain that there is a
Yes.
difference in the surveillance software which different companies may employ deploy in order to listen to the conversations of their employees or to see what kind of data is going across their offices, and these are very clearly explicitly agreed by the employees because they have to give out an IT policy. However, the question here is of a different nature. The kind of software we are talking about is maybe a social media platform, which could be either public platform or a private platform. Because like we see in the GDPR, there is a data protection authority, a regulator. There are stringent punishments, say up to 4% of the annual global turnover of a company. Those kind of stringent penalties have been provided. Currently, we don't have that kind of provisions in Indian law.
Or GDPR that you refer to right now, Karnika, is General Data Protection Regulation, which was enacted in the European Union to protect consumers and their rights online. And moving on, personal data protection bill that will be brought up in the upcoming parliament session in India. A lot of these points will be discussed and debated. But Sudhir, where do you think companies can make a difference? Because let's start with the simple terms and conditions form that one needs to agree with if you need an app. Could it be made more user friendly so that people at least know what they're signing up for? A lot of us don't even go through it because it's just so tedious.
Okay, I think Karnika might be able to tell, if I'm saying it right or wrong. It is to protect their own, organizations. So I think that is needed. Even if you go into our own terms of use document, it will again be a 5 to 10 page document because that is how we protect ourselves. So the best way that organizations could do it is try to keep it a simple language which people could really understand. At least those people who care for it and read it can understand it and easily be able to comprehend it.
But Himanshu, here is the point, because you're in a tricky position. You actually are monetizing a lot of this data, and that's the question to you. Should then the consumers be paid for this data? If you are using a consumer's data from social media platform, would marketing companies be willing to pay them directly for the information that they're providing and at least have a black and white scenario in that case in the advertising world?
When you're using Facebook, say for example, Facebook has invested in a server, they are storing GBs of data for you. So in a way, they have already invested in you as a person. Now, given a choice, every user will want the bucks in their pocket for being on Facebook as a platform so that they can monetize on top of them. But given the scenario, I don't think it is going to happen. and advertisers will be happy to pay for that money provided they get relevant information about this user and they're able to target that person on the platform.
Anyone who
It's going to be
disagrees?
very, very difficult
Anyone
to
who
monetize,
disagrees with Himanshu
know.
and feels that users could be paid for the data that is being used by social media platforms or even the marketing companies, and that could be a way forward. And we look at another
Well,
social media
I think
generation. Yes, Karnika.
I have a point here because we use YouTube a lot, and there are a lot of people who like to be bring out their videos, and that is being monetized as well, and that is happening with their consent. And if the user really wants this to be monetized, there is no problem.
Okay, so in this present case scenario, let me wrap up this discussion by taking some of the last points from all of you. How do you protect your own self? And is there a way out? So let's start from you, Himanshu, and we go down the panel till Sudhir. Himanshu, you first.
So knowing how to switch off the data, knowing how to delete your cookies on the browser is the way you can protect yourself. Knowing how to consciously use these platforms and not put anything and everything on these platforms is the way you can protect yourself. But the more you use the platforms, the more they are going to know about you and the more we are going to use them as marketers to target you.
Is that the final marketer's word that we are getting, Himanshu? We're going to target you if you use the platforms
That's
more.
correct.
Okay. And well, there you go, Karnika. The fact is, how do you ensure that you maximize the convenience factor from social media experience, but give very little away of your personal information?
It's always good to have certain best practices like use a good antivirus and anti-spyware on your phone. Keep your microphone off if you're not using it. A lot of people just leave their Bluetooths and microphones on all the time, even camera options. So I would rather select if it's an app which is for uploading photographs, only select feature, only give access to select pictures rather than the entire library or gallery. Barring that, I think it's your own safety lies in your own hands. So you have to be cautious of what data you're giving away, and a lot of people don't realize it till it's too late.
All right, so read the fine print of terms and conditions. Do not give away an app more than you require to. But here's the point, Sudhir. Are apps collecting more data then as well than they need? How do you ensure that you are just giving the information that the app needs and not extra information, and any hacks that you have to protect consumers?
I think, one of the first things that a user could do is, what are the apps that he's using? How credible are they? How credible are the founders of those enterprises, and which countries are these applications are from? I think, that is the first point where they should start from. And second one is, once they start choosing, there are tons of options that Google and Facebook do offer. May not be everything, but they do offer a lot of privacy settings. You go there and then, try to do, be a little bit of educated on that, and then, do those changes. I think these are the two main steps that the users could do as far as the social media applications is concerned.
All right. Well, on that note, let me wrap up this discussion. It's been an eye-opener. I'm going to do an app check on my phone after this discussion. So thank you all for helping me understand this and helping me decode a little bit of how the data is being shared between the apps and the marketers, and what can consumers do to ensure that their data is protected. Share less information, read the fine print, ensure that you know the privacy setting of your app, and do not share more than is required for that convenience of having something at click of your button. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Data is hot commodity in the new digital market, but unlike many countries where strict privacy laws protect consumers to a large extent, India still has a long way to go. Knowing the risks, are you ready to be part of the social network? The majority on this panel has said yes, but with caution. Do let us know what you think. You can write into us using the hashtag WorklifeIndia or email us at delhi_worklifeindia@bbc.co.uk. Till we meet next time, this is Devina Gupta logging off.